everybody, this is Candy Girl, and this is another Cooking with Candy Girl video. So I haven't done one of these in a while, and I think the last thing I might have done, I think it was baked macaroni, I believe, and I think that was last year. I don't remember exactly, but it's been a while. So here I am again, making something exciting, pretty good, and I haven't made this in, I don't know, like ever. So a friend of mine made this, and I figured I'm going to give it a try myself. So we all know pork chops and applesauce, right? So my boyfriend used to make it all the time, but he made it in the pan. He just put the applesauce, the little applesauce cups on top. But then she made it, my friend made it, and she put it in the crock pot. So I'm going to try that. I thought that was quite different to have pork chops and applesauce. But this is going to be her take on it, so here we go with it. So we're going to do pork chops, applesauce, and potatoes in the crock pot. So I'm starting off with this. Here are two very large potatoes. Okay. And this is only for 2 people to eat. So that's why I have like this amount of food here. So 2 large potatoes I got, and they're already peeled. And 2 very large, thick cut pork chops. Okay, I'm going to show you guys how thick these are. So there's different ways to go about this. See how thick these are? There's different ways to go about this, about what type of pork to use. These are boneless pork chops. There's different ways to go about it. You could use, because I looked up the recipe just to see how other people do it, even though I knew how my friend did it. Some people use a whole pork loin, and then they just put it in the crock pot like that. They don't cut it up or anything. I'm going with the pork chops because it's easier. I don't want to cut anything up. So here are the 2 large pork chops. You can use more than this depending on how many people you're feeding. As I said, this is for 2 people. So this is great for us. So 2 large pork chops here, 2 large potatoes, and then we have 2 medium-sized green apples. You can use whatever apples you want, but once again, I'm just following my friend's recipe. Okay, then you got some salt and pepper. It's just pretty much a basic recipe. I'm sure you can use like whatever seasonings you want, but it's just pretty much a basic recipe, and it comes out extremely good. You cook it in the crock pot for 8 hours on low. Of course, it depends on how much time. You could actually cook it faster, depending on how tender you want your meat to be, whatever it is. And then different people say different things, but I'm going to do this method. They say you can line your crock pot with a crock pot liner, something I've never heard of. Another recipe said to use cooking spray to spray the inside of the pot so it doesn't stick. Sometimes the meat will tend to stick because it or burn the inside of the crock pot, as that's happened to mine, because you cook it for such a long time, even if it's on slow. So, oh, and sauerkraut. Hold on one second. Okay, guys, I forgot one ingredient, and that would be this right here, the sauerkraut. So we got pork chops, applesauce, potatoes, and sauerkraut for that little bit of tang that you really need in there. So I just got 1 packet, as I said, depending on how many people you're feeding. Use whatever you wish. Okay, so as I was saying before, I'm going to spray the inside of my crock pot with some Smart Balance butter spray, one of my favorites. I love that, and I always do the Smart Balance. Okay, so this meat, as you see, has a bit of fat on it, and of course, fat equals flavor. I'm not a fat person, but I'm going to cut some of the fat off. I'm going to leave some of it on, because certain people in this house like fat. I do not, but I'm going to leave some of the fat on because that will help the flavor a little and won't be so dry. And you add as much salt and pepper as you like to it. So I'll be back and I'll show you guys once it's in the crock pot. Okay, guys, I just wanted to show you before I put it in the crock pot. I already put the pork in there. So you saw the 2 big slices of pork, boneless pork chop, thick cut. That I sprayed the crock pot with the cooking spray, and I just laid the pork chop down first. So put the pork chop down first, and then you're going to put your potatoes next. But I just wanted to show you guys. Don't mind that. That's just a little bit of pork fat that I cut off. I didn't really cut that much off. I'm just going to leave it. But anyway, this is how I cut the potatoes in pretty much giant, like wedge pieces, like that. Now the apple, a lot of people put it in first because, you know, when you put your crock pot on, you're pretty much just setting it and letting it go, let it do its thing for 8 hours or so. I want the what ends up happening with the apples is that they disappear into the dish once it's done, and I actually want to taste the apples. So what I will be doing with the green apples is I'll be adding it later on, maybe an hour before it's done. So I can actually have the pieces of apple instead of it being pieces. You can do what you want. If you don't want to actually taste the apple pieces, but you just want the applesauce flavor in the pork chops and applesauce combination, you can put it in there now and set it and let it go. Or if you have that kind of, don't have that kind of time to whatever it is. But as I said, I want to actually taste the apple pieces and I want them to be a little firm. So I'm going to put that in later and I'll show you guys what happens there. Hopefully it won't disappear, because it seems like every time I cook something with apples, it kind of disappears when I actually want to bite into the pieces. So there we go there. The sauerkraut, I'm going to dump this entire bag with the juice into it because you need some liquid. Some people use water. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go along with just this here. Maybe I'll put a little bit of water, maybe like half a cup, like a small paper cup size. So there we go. All right, stay tuned, guys. Alrighty, everything is in the pot. So as I told you, pork is in the bottom. And you sprinkle some salt and pepper, or if you want to put any other seasoning. I'm going to just keep it basic with salt and pepper, but you could use what you want. Salt and pepper between each layer of what you have. So the meat is down, put some salt and pepper. Potatoes are down, salt and pepper. Sauerkraut right on top, as you can see there. And now I have set it on low for now. It's hard to see, but it's on low to start. So yeah, I'm gonna do this for the full 8 hours, although I'm gonna be quite hungry in between, because yeah, it's gonna be quite a while. But anyway, I'm starting this in the afternoon, but yeah, it's gonna be 8 hours. Or if it's really ready within 6 or 7, I'll eat it 6 or 7 hours. So there we go, guys. That is the whole thing. Hold on one second. All right, so yeah, so that's everything. Okay, I didn't add any liquid or anything yet, because except for the whole package of sauerkraut with the juice. We want that tanginess to be in there. You don't want it to be super tangy, like how when you eat sauerkraut on a hot dog, right? So it'll be a good mixture. Apples come later. You guys will see that. Lid is going on. A little red Crockpot. And there you go. All right, guys. See you again. Hey everybody, it is 9.5 hours later, and we have our pork with sauerkraut and potatoes and the green apple. So I added the green apple, which is more tart than sweet, but you kind of do taste a tiny bit of the sweetness. For some reason, it seemed to come up more when it was cooked towards the very end. Maybe the last half hour I put before it's done. So here it is. I mean, it might look like a bunch of like thrown together slop or whatever. It is really good. All I added was salt and pepper. Here is the pork. You don't need any other seasoning. You don't have to add any water because the sauerkraut liquid is mixed in there, and that does the job. And it's just a basic, you know, I'm not gonna say plain, but it's all you need is the flavor of the sauerkraut, really. So that's everything in there, and it's good. Here's my plate. Ready to chow down. The potatoes are mixed, the apples are mixed in, so you'll run into like pieces. I cut the apples smaller. Well, there it goes, guys. Pork chops, apples, sauerkraut, good stuff. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching my Cooking with Candy Girl video. Go ahead, get your crock pot ready. Make you, can't say quick meal, but do your thing. Take care, stay sweet. Bye.